I've thought about writing about the effects that being red-pilled, as they say, has on one's individual kind of daily life and worldview, but after today, I knew I had to start writing about it, since the effects for me are becoming increasingly obvious. I remember listening to a podcast called Red Ice Radio from YouTube the other day, and in that podcast, I remember the host of the show, Henrik Palmgren, saying something along the lines of, and I'm obviously paraphrasing hard, once you've been red-pilled, there's no going back. You can't really swallow the red pill, and return to life as it were before. As soon as I heard that, I knew that it was true. As much as it would comfort my racing mind to go back to the time of willful ignorance and utopian dreams, it just no longer seems possible. The fact of the matter is, that most of us, dare I say almost all of us, have been programmed in a certain way, since we were little children. Our parents were programmed so hard that they, unconsciously, unwillingly, decided to sign us up for the same program that they went through. Hell, even if our parents had swallowed a whole box of red pills before bringing us to this world, I fear that their effect would still be outrun by the government, other kids' parents, the schooling system, and by basically everything that kids look up to. The movies they make, the lessons they give, the homework they force kids to do, the cartoons they show. Everything serving their bigger agenda. Everything to make the world as they desperately need it to be. Everything to keep us from thinking outside of the box. Hell, usually the people that claim to think outside the box these days have spent their whole lives so deep down at the bottom of that box that they've never seen the walls around them, and they actually believe that they are independent and free, when in reality, their whole worldview depends on the shifting moods of the state, and more specifically on the ones that run the state. Once you've taken on the glorious path of allowing yourself to see more clearly, once you've painfully managed to rip off the stitches from your eyes, once you've first seen, and then gotten used to the light was there all along, the shadows are forever gone. Suddenly, everything becomes clear. Suddenly, you start seeing the code that they have programmed us with, suddenly you see their lies, and their reptilian faces don't look friendly any longer. You realize that you are not one of them, and they will never become one of you. Today, I attended a first aid class, because for me to be able to keep working at my current profession, I need the first aid card that I receive after successfully going through the test after the 2-day class. So, the lecturer, a 40-year-old woman, was telling us about the recent school shooting, and how they have affected the safety protocols around the board. She also told us about the recent knife attack in Turku, where a Muslim immigrant man went off to a crusade to stab as many women he possibly could before he would be caught or gunned down. She told us that in the light of the recent events, we can't allow ourselves to look away any longer. We need to accept the facts, and start from there. When she said this, I became almost hopeful. Almost? What will be the result of her speech? That we need to be on the lookout for crimes committed by third-world immigrants? That Islamists are likely unstable, and these threats should be taken more seriously? That we have to start talking about these issues with their real names, that we can't force ourselves to tone down a fear of opposition? Of course, my hopes didn't come true. This is what she actually said. Don't be afraid, class. We, as Finnish people, will never have a leader as crazy as Donald Trump in the US, who wants teachers to carry guns. You can never battle violence with violence, because violence can only cause more violence. Violence can only be won through humanitarian efforts and values. I was shocked. I mean, it's like an excerpt from a stand-up comedy act. Violence can only be won through humanitarian efforts and values. Excuse me. We are trying to have a class on first aid and how to deal with shit like school shootings as they happen, not trying to battle the afterwaves. I mean, what the fuck is that? If there was a kid at my class, who just pulled out a pistol in the cafeteria, and started shooting people, tell me, how are humanitarian values going to take that pistol off from his, or better, knock him unconscious, or better, knock him dead? How? Can I swing and smash his face in with my liberal values? Miss Teacher? It's so goddamn absurd. Even better in this is obviously the fact that the lessons was about first aid, and not about her personal feelings towards foreign policies, President Trump, or humanitarianism. None of those opinions belonged there, in that classroom, in the first place. You just simply don't shove your personal opinions and regressed traumas down the throats of young kids. Mind you, I was one of the older people in the class, so yeah, if this is how we teach our children about everything, no wonder they cry about gender-neutral bathrooms, while their European heritage is both literally and figuratively burning around them. It's like when you have a house, but it's a bit cold because it's winter, so you decide to burn down the whole house and be extra warm for a day or two. That's how we're teaching our kids these days. It's a fucking travesty. See, I'm upset again. Someone call the police, am I right? This was just one example, one of oh so many. Before, I wouldn't even have noticed. I wouldn't care about her liberalism or humanitarian values, whatever that is, if she didn't try to state them as facts to a classroom full of dumb kids who've probably never questioned authority. I mean, it wasn't always like this, was it? Other example of seeing the code, as I put it before, would be this. One night, we were surfing through the worst collection of movies ready to be streamed anywhere in the world, Netflix, looking for something to watch. Me and my girlfriend had both had a long day at work, so we thought we'd sort of just put something on and hang out. We came across this dumb-looking movie, called Hurricane Bianca. Ever watched it? Please don't. I will review it for you, I'm just that cool of a dude. So, you know how the left and the SJWs are always complaining about stereotypes, and how they harmfully affect the lives of those kind of people. You know how to tell if a movie was made by leftists and SJWs. It's full of unfunny, and unnecessary stereotypes. Exactly. Don't believe me? Watch the movie. Or don't. It won't take away the suffering I had to go through while watching it. It can't lessen the amount of mental gymnastics I had to do to rationalize to myself why I would just keep watching such a film. Back to the point. So, the movie is basically about a gay man who moves to Texas. He's basically the most stereotypical Hollywood version of what is it to be gay. He's so thin he looks like a kindergartner, he wears girly and colorful clothing, he talks in a high-pitched, annoying voice, where every comment that he makes sounds like a question, with that weird Mexican upward spiral at the end. He only hangs out with drag queens, and just so happens to be a teacher. I mean, it was so dumb that even I was put out of words. It only got worse. So, he moves to Texas, to become a teacher there. Every man in Texas is a God-fearing hillbilly, wearing Confederate flags as scarves around their heads. All of them had the same dumb stereotypical mustache and hair, every one of them drank all the time, talked about hating gays, and kept constantly spitting on the ground like complete barbarians. So, there's the second stereotype they're pushing. The school was very religious, obviously, so they ended up firing him because he was gay. Obviously he wasn't okay with that, so he dressed up as a woman, and applied for the job again, and managed to get the position. He dressed like a whore, he constantly kept insulting the local people and their religion. He forced them to abandon their creationist ideals, and started teaching evolution against the school board's will. And of course, one of the hillbillies was secretly gay, because apparently everyone that has anything negative to say about the gays must actually be gay, as much as that makes sense. The point of the whole movie was to talk down religion, talk down people who have anything other than ultra-liberal values, and to praise being the most stereotypical type of gay, and trans, and overall just different than the majority. I mean, hasn't that always been the left's driving force? To be different than the rest of us? Like that somehow made them better? Maybe that's how they, after all the evidence leading to a whole another direction, managed to convince themselves that diversity is our greatest strength. The left is literally trying to talk down the evil identity politics of the right-wingers, while constantly pushing identity politics of their own. They are trying to make being gay the biggest success one can have in life, while viewing being straight, or white, or male, as oppressive, bad, and immoral. Maybe I'm just too old for this, yeah? While this movie definitely managed to make my blood pressure rise, I know that this isn't just one bad movie in the sea of good ones. This is literally a drop from an ocean of pure human feces, and most of the people have grown around the smell to such a degree, that they imagine it being just a normal thing. It's the same thing. When you live in the darkness, you can't comprehend the idea of light, thus you can't reach for the light. Well, I smell the shit now. I see the light behind the pile of shit, and nothing is able to cloud my vision anymore. I will defend what is mine, I will stand up for my own values. And I will not be led astray by these forces that try to suck out our own identities, and replace them with poison and filth. The table is rigged. Tilt it in your favor. Stay infidel, lads, and see you next time.